don't have outside thought or have outside experiences, whether it's
Actually, I was going to bring that up next, but
okay,
since you
sure, sure,
started,
yeah, sure.
I'll let you have the floor. Because I don't, I'm not sure where you're going to go with this, so I'll let you start. What were you going to say about this topic?
Well, as I try to give a statement saying off to you earlier this week for our planning of this podcast, I know it sounds like it's more of an opinion than a fact. It's just based on my experiences because when we were kids, what we did when we were kids, we played lots of video games. But sometimes, once in a blue moon, my mom, your mom, anyone's mom out there, or a family in general speaking, they force you to stop playing games after a while. And they want you to go out and play basketball with your friends or your peers. They want you to play bowling, rifle, soccer, and all this other good stuff. And we experienced it, at least some of us did, back in the 1990s into the 2000s or so. But now in today's world, in the 2020s, especially for the last 5 or 7 years, to my awareness, it's getting lesser and lesser of that experience be put into today's gamers, to today's younger gamers. They're not into football. They're not into exploring different kinds of people out there, different cultures, different values, and I hope people who are over 30, 35 especially, understand where we come from, because that's what's going on from those who are under 30, if not under 25. And as an example, I'm friends with people on Xbox Live for about 3 or 4, if not 5 years. As half of them, in my perspective, they don't understand where I come from. They think I'm schizophrenic. They think I'm a CIA agent. They think I'm some sort of plant from the government trying to look into their lives and stuff like that, understand their perspectives in life and stuff like that. Because I questioned them or I asked them questions about how's the school going, how's your physical activities going and shit like that. Because I try to get peers of mine, whether it's you or James at the time, going to the gym, whatever, back in high school, or in today's world, online, try to encourage others and myself to get back into the gym or get back into exercise altogether. And most of these kids, they're not into that stuff. And if they are, it's not as much of it as prevalent. So my point is that I believe that there should be a bigger awareness to give kids a jump start on understanding the outside of gaming, the outside of the world's not just your fucking video game. It's about being with people. It's about understanding other people's cultures and values. Because there's this one guy I'm in conflict with because he's in our group. He thinks I'm some sort of nigger. He thinks I'm some sort of piece of shit. But I talk bullshit whenever I say it to these guys. And they're like 18, 19, 20 years old. Another guy, he's 22. The guy never experienced what I experienced when I was a kid. Or even if he did, it wasn't as much. Yeah, it's just, it kind of like, I won't say it's sickening. It's just that it's just got a little worse, in a sense. Don't you think so, James? In what I'm saying?
I don't think it's really the kids' fault per se so much. I also think when you bring up this issue, you have to look at the parents
Yes.
because my parents, when I was getting older, junior high, high school wise, they wanted. Well, you were there. They wanted me to spend most of my time at home if I wasn't at school or whatever. Um, that's why it was such a that's why it was such a fight just to hang out at the mall or something. Um, but so you gotta look at like what are the parents doing? Are the parents allowing these kids to go out? Or is it like my situation where they're being told no just because the parents need to stroke their ego?
Hmm.
And if you're growing up like I did, where I couldn't go to the mall because I still was never given a good reason, even to this day. Um, it's not so easy to break out of that uh, funk you put in because you didn't put yourself there.
I think it's more involved with a self discipline, but it has to be taught at a very, very young age. And my mom, my family altogether, I grew up in a church like setting, and we went to Sunday school every Sunday, obviously, then church altogether on later on that day. You also had the karate and basketball, and then on Saturdays. So even though I didn't like it at first, I was starting to adjust to the exploration of things as I got older. That's how they
Yeah,
took over.
when I was younger, like elementary school or like really young elementary school student, I took taekwondo. I was in this organization called the Sea Rangers, which I really don't remember anything about. I was just in it. I was just in it because my older brother was in it.
Right.
Um, but and yeah, I played baseball in eighth grade because a teacher told me high school sports looks good on a college application as opposed to nothing. Extracurricular activities look better than nothing. So that's why I played baseball eighth, and then, well, and we met in eighth grade. You remember, but like I said, when I wanted to do something socially, and it wasn't at my house, you saw what I had to put up with, because most of the time my parents had said no because it made them feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, on one hand, it's not really younger gamers if it's because of what their parents are doing. But on the other hand, it's really up to the parents of the kids today to make sure your kids are getting into things. Because I did things when I was younger that were video games, even though video games was a huge part.
By default, yes, with my situation as well. But eventually, it has to be up to us as kids or as individuals at the time, because even though, like, as we got older, we turned from relying on our parents for advice or relying on our parents for permission to do things to us as deciding for ourselves. So these 18, 19, 20, 21 year olds, specifically I'm focusing on, they never experience the development or the proper understanding about other people's way of living or other people's way of thinking and things that matter. So it's kind of like they're stuck in the past, or they're stuck in a small world sense. You know what I mean? That's even worse than the death itself at times. You know?
Yeah, that's true. Because when you're 18 and older, um, most parents really don't have any grip over you. You want to hang out, go hang out. Um, but
Unless if you were injured, like I was in a sense where it's like I couldn't go outside as well because of my weight, or if you have problems with your health, like you're on an iron lung or something, or you had to get gastric bypass surgery, like some of my family members did, and all this other stuff. So it's kind of like one thing leads to another. One thing creates a handicap on oneself. But those are rare occurrences that handicap, that crippling, or that iron lung, whatever you want to call it. But the kids of who are very loosey goosey, who but at the same time they don't have that loosey goosiness. Like I know this one kid, he called me at the N word every day for 2 years, and he finally stopped eventually because he found out that I could report to his parents or whatever. The point is that he he actually has a potential to understand what's going on better than some of the 18, 19-year-olds that I interacted with. I'm like, that don't make any sense though, because usually he's like supposed to develop this stuff over time. Eventually he did. He's very outgoing in a sense. He went to New York City one time while I was here, whatever, and stuff like that. So, but one leads to another. How is it that some of these kids from who are 10, 11, 12 years old are better outgoing at what's going on than the 18, 19, 21-year-olds who are never experienced this stuff? It's a sanity. It's kind of weird. So,
some of it is being over sheltered.
Yes.
That's one problem. Some of it is just the more you see, and some of it, is just like you said, experiencing it for themselves instead of believing what the TV tells you. Because that's a problem with some of these Democrat voters. They believe everything the TV tells them, and then, like I said, I get to shatter their world when I disprove whatever they believe. So it's being sheltered. That's the problem. why older gamers are the way they are. And if someone younger, like 10, 11, 12, is understanding this, it's because they've had the freedom, I bet, to go out and experience other things other than playing on their game box.
Indeed. Agree.
I mean, like I said, I got to do a lot of it when I was younger, really young, but not so much when I got older for no good reason. But then when my friend in Garden City, I started hanging out with him a lot more than usual once we graduated high school in 2006 and on. And like when he was going to bars with his friends, he'd let me come by. So I went with them, and I went to Renaissance Fair with him a couple of times with, as a whole friends group. I got to experience that. I got to experience bars. I got to experience
casinos.
Not casinos, no.
That's what I try to tell them. I try to tell these 22-year-old guys, like, dude, you never heard of like betting before for a game? I mean, they're thinking of like DLC, whatever. I'm talking about literally a program you insert into a video game, and then if you're 21, 18 years and over, you can bet $5 for one match. Say you'll be first place in that match in a free for all match. That's that one example type of sense. They don't understand where I come from. They don't understand where I come from about the matter. Like, what's going on?
Actually, it's funny you bring that up. I hate to bring him up, but it happened with him, so I have to bring him up.
Yeah.
Me and Kevin one time watching Monday Night Raw, and we got the smart idea, hey, let's bet on the outcome of these matches. Just me and him. He'd pick someone to win, I'd pick someone to win, and let's bet money. And then he wanted to bet items instead of cash, which I said was fine as long as I knew what the item was beforehand. And it turned out he won $5 from me in one night. I won the Dumb and Dumber VHS tape from him.
Now that's interesting.
Me and him, or at least as far as I know, me and him, we didn't know the outcomes of, we didn't know any of the matches that were going to happen until we watched the TV show.
And by the time the internet came out in the 2000s, that was prevailing. You can understand.
Well, this was 2004, I think.
Okay.
This was like the night after the Royal Rumble in 2004.
Okay.
So we didn't know any matches that were going to happen and we hadn't looked up WWE.com earlier in the day. At least I didn't. But we watched Raw a lot together, especially when he was trying to get me out of trouble for mouthing off. And a lot of time, and one night we just got the idea to bet on matches. If we had differing ideas who was going to win, we bet money. We bet on who we thought would win these matches.
Okay.
So at least I've had that. I'm just scared if I went to a casino, I'd probably you definitely found me at the blackjack table for one.
I would go for the roulette.
Oh yeah, roulette. That's really
like give me number 5.
This is really your favorite then.
Give me number 5 red.
Oh yeah, bet the single numbers. That definitely works. It's just like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when Will and Colton went to a casino, and Colton bet a $5 chip on red and a $5 chip on black. Will goes, "You can't do that. They're going to cancel each other out. You're not going to win any money." He goes, "True, but I won't lose any money either." Will goes, "Yeah, unless," and then they spin the roulette wheel and landed on 0, green.
Ooh.
But I mean, I've always said, if you found me at a casino, I'd probably be at the blackjack table.
Yeah, I was expecting. I'm not trying to say that everyone has to know everything about life, but because I don't know everything about life. Hell, I will admit to publicly on this podcast that I'm still considered to be a virgin, even though I had a girlfriend, even though I had relations with one, with everything else, and we didn't go all the way through because of. Let's face it, I had uh, religious practices going on back then. Then I was told not to have sex before marriage. So, that was back then. Now, 10 years later, you know, I'm more freely out, not freely out there, but I'm saying the fact that I can at least say that, like, I can go out there and with confidence, I could go on at the casino or meet up at a friend over by Times Square, or have a burger and fries at a party somewhere in Brooklyn over by Action Burger 2.0, because Action Burger is a restaurant over by in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and that's a good place to go for those who are gamers. There's old school games to play there. There's new school games to play. They have a 5,000 to 1 machine, arcade machine in the back, and they have good food. So it's a place for us gamers, and that's just one of the aspects of New York City. Imagine coming here in New York City to see all kinds of different gamers, different aspects, and they never experienced that. Some of these gamers on Xbox Live. So when I talk to them about certain topics, certain issues, certain things, they look at me as like I'm a ghost or just some sort of plain old nigger. No offense to say that on live on podcast. Oh, what the fuck you're talking about, man? That type of feeling. Like, damn. And I'm trying to help you out. You know what I'm saying, James? I'm not trying to say that I have to be better than them, or I want them to be better than want me to be better than them, or whatever. But it's just more of like I want to encourage what I experienced, or that I've never experienced, at least at the same time. Because I never had experienced being with women up until in my 20s, in the early 20s, or late teens, excuse me, after high school. I never experienced girls until after high school. That's the fucked up part. So, in a sense where it's like, these 22 years never experienced no girl at all. That's scary right there, So that's my take on the matter.
Well, just to wrap that up before we move on. Again, what you experience, it's partially your parents' fault, especially when you're growing up, because they're the parent. They're supposed to know what's best for you, and if they're either they should be encouraging their child to find more interest other than just staying at home, or second, they shouldn't be stopping their kid from wanting to do things outside the home.
Right.
And it's just, and a lot of times, it's. I kind of wish they had that thing for adults too, where there were different organizations you could join. There might be in Valley Stream. I don't know. There's really nothing down here in Nashville, Georgia. Different organizations to join for adults who want to, who just want to meet people. You either got to go to the gym or you got to go. Really, actually, that's the only thing I can think of down here. Not even bars are.
But here's the fucked up. And here's the screwed up part too. Some of the ladies at these gyms, as one example, they get tattletale on the manager saying that they harass them too. So it's kind of like, where's the good time to meet people, especially women? Where's a good time to meet like-minded people, especially if it's in a gym, whatever? And you thought, okay, we could talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger and his weightlifting / bodybuilding experience / career. That's one example, but that's not my forte per se. So what I'm saying, like I try to talk to girls at the gym who are into video games, whatever. Tell them about my business, tell them what I do and stuff like that. I ask them what they do. They're not interested in that type of stuff too. So it's kind of like, and these girls are all around my age, like 25, 30, 35. You have to find the right place in the matter for these certain terms of engagement in a sense. So.
Right. So I mean, it is a problem, I admit, but it's got to be something that's got to be done. When you were young, I was encouraged to join things when I was young, and then not so much when I got older. even if I wanted to. And then, but and also it also depends on your city. If something's available, like a hangout. Like for example, in the '90s, if you were interested in video games and you wanted to find people that shared your interest, you go to your local arcade.
Mm-hmm.
That's not arcades aren't really around anymore, at least in America.
You have to go to like major cities like New York City, Los Angeles, maybe Dallas, Texas, maybe in Chicago, Illinois.
Well, you're really taking your life in your hands if you're going in Chicago, but
It's not that bad. It may be a lot of shootings in Chicago, but it's not what you're thinking of. Those are like low income neighborhoods. Those shootings. So if you go to like those high rises or to those higher end type of areas of Chicago, that's where most of the high quality arcade slash malls would be and stuff like that. So it's like that here in New York City. Like where I live is in Jamaica, Queens, and if I want to go to a better mall, I'll go to the one over in Garden City. That's in Long Island out there for a 2 hour commute. If I go to the one in Valley Stream, though, as of today's world, as of the year 2021, you see predominantly black people there and other non-whites and stuff like that. But here's the funny part, though. In Garden City, there was shooting incidents there for the last 15 years or so, every couple of years or so, because of whatever. It's usually a black person involved. It's ridiculous. I don't know what's going on, but let's just face it that that the way we were taught on certain people, certain groups, that's how it is. It's like that's how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to already be civilized. And when it comes to time of war, that's when we're going to be desperate, things that matter. I can understand that part. But we're not in a time of war. And people don't feel like we have to be in a time of war from the start. At one point, I feel like we should have a war on our hands in America. Like a literal war. Because the things I found out about these politicians and bankers, everyone should have already found out about this stuff online for the last 10 years. And especially before 2016 election. And stuff like that. Like it should have been like a done deal. Like that's it. They go to jail. But to no avail. It's all about the timing and about understanding your surroundings. So it's a hit and miss. So
yeah. So, yeah. So that's unfortunately it would help if there's a lot more places to hang out. But then again, I think about it, if you're playing a game that you enjoy on Twitch, for example, as I do live streams, sometimes you meet people that you wouldn't have met otherwise. It's not the same thing as meeting them in person, but there's not as many chances as there were to meet people live in person as there were when we were young. For example, I remember in Toys R Us, when they had the game kiosk set up.
Oh yes.
Free one time I was there. I forgot why I was at Toys R Us, but I was playing WrestleMania 18 for the first time on GameCube.
Ooh, the GameCube. The GameCube. I played that too at Valley Stream Toys R Us too.
And then I noticed someone was behind me, so I exited out of my game and let them play, and I watched them play. And it's like two brothers were playing against one another, and they apparently knew the game because they knew how to get weapons under the ring. One of them got a garbage can under the ring, but he was kicking it instead of picking it up, and the garbage can was getting weaker. And I was like, yeah, that's right, destroy the weapon before you get it in the ring. And that's a fun way to hang out. I wish we had more. I wish we had places like that in the big cities and smaller cities, but
that was great time back then too. Back during GameStop year, the GameStop Toys R Us, even the Times Square Toys R Us in Times Square, New York, here in New York City. Dude, there's all kinds of people from all over the world that go to that place for the Ferris wheel, for cotton candy and popcorn. There's a video game section down in the basement, if you want to call it the basement, or the first floor. And they have these kiosks / stations you play for free of the newest games coming out, whether it's the Bruce Lee game, which I have back behind me, of the Xbox One version of the poster, or games like Twisted Metal 4 you could buy for like $10 back then. And I bought it for Twisted Metal 4 back then at that location for $10 or so. That was one of the best experiences I ever had in my gaming history or my life in gaming altogether. And most of these kids are never going to experience that in
Yeah.
and beyond. So
So I mean, they should take advantage, but they need someone older to know what to take advantage in.
yes,
And I think that's where parents need to take their responsibility.
like
Anyway,
if I may add one more thing though, like I know it sounds very political, but it's very relevant to what we're discussing. Ronald Reagan said, like, it is not the genetics that are passed on for the younger generation to know what happened to our previous generation. It is our ideas and the way we teach these ideas to the next generation and pass it on and so on and so forth.
right.
That's the paraphrasing quote of Ronald Reagan. So,
All right. Well, Sony Direct. When we last episode we talked about announcements that come out of Sony Direct.